Hi, welcome to the Lang Show. First things first, I'm not doing the 365 to 55 because frankly I got sick of myself. It does help me keep more, in the moment as far as day by day, but I can do that other ways. And I just feel like that's not really me. Like, why should you care what I'm doing? I don't even care what I'm doing anymore. So I'm going back to just helping people when they need help and not pushing anything that I'm doing on anybody. So anyway, the Lang Show today, a couple of things to talk about. I think that's why I've been putting this off too, because I just felt like I didn't really want to talk about that anymore. I'm just going to continue age with enthusiasm. 3 things today. A moving office is number 1. Number 2 is getting better at remembering people's names and some tips that have helped me. And then number 3, the best way to look lean is to be lean. And I'll talk about that more in a moment. So the first thought is a moving office. We've all heard about, or maybe you've heard about, the treadmill office where you actually set up your desk to move at a treadmill at a very slow pace. But the idea is you could burn a few hundred calories a day by simply just standing and moving more. And I'm a big fan of moving more. So I have my office in my home. And so we have an office in one of the bedrooms, and then I also work out here in the kitchen living room area. And it's funny because I used to think, oh man, I need to be more organized because we have these small portable filing cabinets. And so sometimes I would, look at the filing cabinets and go, oh man, we need to bring them back into the office again because I keep moving from the workspace here in the kitchen to back there in the office and back out again. And then you realize, you know what? That's really a good thing. So a tip for you is to deliberately set up your workspace or your environment to make you have to move more. So whether that's changing shelves to where you have to reach up and bend down, standing bending down, not sitting bending down, but get up and moving to different spots to have to talk to people. We were talking the other day, what if you put the foam rollers in your office and you had meetings while people were doing self-fascia release, or set up meetings while you're outside walking. But anyway, the moving office, the movable office is a great idea. The second point I want to talk about is remembering names. I did sales at Gainesville Health and Fitness Center for 9 years, a long time ago, and I always remember saying to Joe Cerulli, well, I'm not good at remembering names, and he'd say, well, you're not going to change that until you change that attitude, positive self-talk and your subconscious thinking that you're bad at something and all of that. But I want to give a couple of tips that have helped me. I know there's classic suggestions, like, oh, you have a big nose, big eyes, you make a story with that, or a little, rhyme or something. But I was more intrigued with the more complicated memory crutches. I always thought, why is it so easy for me to remember way, way long after I ever learned the order of the planets away from the sun? I mean, I remember my very educated mother just served us 9 pickles. So in the order away from the sun, Mercury, my, very Venus, educated Earth, Mother Mars, Jupiter, South. So I always remembered that because it's quite complicated. And so I thought, just reading more about the brain research and stuff, how, memories are easier to remember if they're more complex and if they're associated with other things. And so, without getting into anything with the brain necessarily, but what's worked for me is I, number 1, deliberately look at that person and think about their name, think about this person, looking at them. And then I try to think of a story or other ways that I could help remember that person's name. And I have to say, with effort, I started doing this probably 2 years ago now, a very concerted effort, to where when I was out at work or if my husband were out meeting people and just out for fun, I'd say, no, I'm going to think of a way to remember that person. And sometimes my husband would laugh at these extravagant, complicated memory crutches, like, well, I thought of this and I thought of that and that made me think of that. And the end result is 2 years later, now I'm remembering names easier. And that's the question. I don't think we know yet if that translates into remembering other things better. But anyway, I'll give you one example. A bar that we like to go to, someone there. Her name is Caroline. And I met her, once in a while, not very often. I was like, what's her name again? What's her name again? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to think about this now. So I was thinking about it. I didn't really know her that well. She was sitting with other people who were always laughing and stuff. And so I thought, Caroline's Comedy Club here in New York City. It's a place where people do stand-up, right? And I was thinking, but she's not that funny. And so that's it. Now I know her name, but that's how I remember. I would see her and I'm like, okay, what is it about her? What was I thinking about? Like, oh yeah, she's around other people, but she's not as funny, Caroline. And it's amazing how I feel like almost the more complicated or the more branches the memory has to go, the easier it is for me to recall it. So maybe it's just from different angles. And now it's truly amazing how I'm getting better at it. I taught a workshop a few weeks ago. Sometimes what I do is look at the sheet of paper and try to get familiar with the names of the people before they show up. But 2 weeks ago, I taught a workshop with 18 people in the workshop, said hello to them within the first few minutes, and about 2 or 3 times within the first 20 minutes, a couple of people walked in late, and I had everybody's name, and I was able to recall 18 different names throughout the course of an entire day. That's pretty damn good, I think. So that works for me. If you want to try it, just really think about a story surrounding that person so that you can have different options of how to recall that. And you'll be able to say that you're good with names now. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about, sometimes it clicks, right? You hear things over and over again, and it just clicks. And so we were listening to this stand-up comic, and he was saying, I'm calling bullshit on, a lot of things. But he said, when people say, do these pants make me look fat? And obviously in fitness, we hear that a lot. Do I look fat? Does this make me look big? And this isn't new, but it might click. He said, let's face it, the only way to look skinny is to be skinny. And so that's my thought for the day. The only way to look lean is to be lean. The only way to look healthy is to be healthy. The only way to look strong is to be strong. So I'll leave you with that. We'll see you again another time. This is The Lang Show. Thank you.